Hey guys, welcome back to another YouTube video here on my YouTube channel, and in this video we're going to be covering 5 major tips for you to succeed in this duo cash cup and in the future duo cash cups. So pay attention, sit back, relax, and just learn from this video. They're not going to be some sort of basic simplified tips. They will be simple, but I really think they're going to be some sort of things that you haven't heard before, things that will actually benefit you. So pay attention and let's learn, guys. So first tip is pretty simple. It's the simple fact that solo cash cups are placement based. It's something that I think all of us can agree on. You get 30 placement points, right? But each kill gives you 1 point, so that's fair. So then you might ask me, like, okay, what do you think duo cash cups are? I actually think duo cash cups are kill based. Okay, you do need to play like some sort of like kill based format just to get the most amount of points in order to qualify, at least, right? You can still get like 100 points just playing placement. Unfortunately, I really believe that getting a lot of kills is important. Now, there's 2 ways to do this, right? You can do this mid-game if you feel really confident, but if you don't want to take that risk, you do need to frag out in endgame. Okay, so let me explain why I think it's kill oriented, right? Because it's like baseless. Like, I can just say that and everyone would believe me, but let me sort of explain it, right? So 30 to 1 for solos, you understand what this means, right? So 30 placement points for solos, and then each kill is 1 point. So then you might ask yourselves, like, what is it for duos? Everyone's going to say 25 to 1, right? 25 placement points for each game that's available to get, and then 1 point per kill. Right? However, it's not actually what's happening here. We have to understand this. So it's not actually 25 to 1 for duos. This is not true. It's actually 25 to 2. And I'll explain why, right? So each fight that we take is like 2v2. You might assume that. So like every mid-game fight that we take is actually a 2v2. And so you need to think of it in terms of team kills, not just a kill. Because every time you fight someone, you have a teammate that's helping you get kills, right? So you would assume your teammate's going to get like half the kills, for example, and you're not putting any effort behind it. And so you should think of it as a team kill. So each team kill gives you 2 points. And so if you simplify this so we can compare it to the solo cash cup, it would be 12.5 for 1, right? And you can see the difference between these two. Right, you can see the difference between these two. This is solos right here, and this is duos, and you can see how placement doesn't matter that much in duos. It does to an extent, but I really think that you need to either frag out in mid game if you're very confident, or go into end game and get 5 to 10 kills in end game. And one of the best ways to do that is understand how to take height, steal tarps, all these sort of tactics that you can do in end game. There's a lot to go over in terms of end game, so we'll definitely go over that in like a separate video, but I really think that this is an important distinction to understand. Solos, you could genuinely get away by getting 2 kill wins and just playing that way and actually qualifying that way. However, I don't think you can do that in duos. I don't think you can qualify just playing placement in duos. It's just not realistic. A lot of other teams are getting kills and they're just going to be way farther ahead in the leaderboard because they chose to take these 2v2s or end games, spray backs and stuff. I just think it's like super important to actually understand the difference between solos and duos so you can compare them. I absolutely believe solos is placement. I do not believe duos is placement. And now this doesn't mean you shouldn't play placement. This just means that you need to like go for kills at some point, right? Don't risk your life doing it. If you're confident enough that your fighting skill is so good that you can take a mid-game fight successfully, sure, go for it. But you don't have to. I'm not encouraging you guys to sort of take risks like all over the place. Go for it in endgame if you really feel like it, right? There's multiple ways to get kills reliably in endgame, but in general, just understand this and it'll help you sort of get more points than you would have. Cool. Tip number 2, I believe that mid-game fights are either offensive or defensive. Now, what does this mean? Right? I don't think you should be in the middle. I think you should choose one of these positions and just stick with it. And so what I mean by that is like within the first like 5 to 10 seconds, you should be sort of established on like which role that you're playing, right? Which side are you in terms of the team? Which sort of playstyle are you playing in that specific fight? So let me sort of explain this. Whoever usually has height or HP advantage, right? So if you have height or HP advantage, you're usually playing offensive. If you lost height or losing on HP, you're playing defensive. So now we can sort of talk about like the objectives for each sort of playstyle, right? Offensive or defensive. You should be playing in a specific way. So let me sort of explain. Offensive, because it's a spray meta and SMGs are sort of prevalent, and there's multiple ways to get a lot of ammo with vending machines and ammo boxes and everything. I just believe that if you're playing offensive, you should not be box fighting, right? So let's sort of break this down. Do not box fight. What do I mean by like don't box fight? If you box fight, you're leaving yourself vulnerable. And I'll explain this a little bit later. Like it's sort of going into the win condition of the defensive players. Like what do the defensive players want? So try not to box fight unless you are like literally guaranteed that you're going to win because the enemies are like 1 HP. Okay. In that case, sure. But in most cases, they won't be 1 HP. Like that's why you're fighting in this specific way in the first place. So do not box fight. What should you do instead? Spray from a distance on height or 2 to 3 boxes away from 2 different angles. Okay, pinch. right? So that's what you should do. You should actually take 2 different angles and spray at the exact same time. Now, one important detail, I think this is actually super underrated. You should not be spraying at different times. You guys as a duo need to sync your sprays together. There's no point in having player number 1 spraying, reloading, and then player number 2 starting then. Like, what does that actually do for you, right? You can just keep going back and forth and holding the wall. That's relevant. So just spray at the exact same time, wait for your teammate to be ready, like 3 2 1, communicate about it, and it's gonna be very much easier to actually get this done and actually get some damage. So the whole point of doing this is you're safe, you're never going to get boxed, and you get free damage because they're not going to be sort of in a non-panic situation. They're gonna be very worried because they're getting sprayed from 2 different angles. They can't necessarily hold both. Bullets are bleeding through, they're panicking, and you're just getting 50, 100, 150 damage for literally free, no risk whatsoever. So that's the benefit of being on the offense. I actually think offensive is the better angle to take, right? That's the way you get offense, honestly, is mid-game fights. You just get height. Start with height and make sure both players are on height. Once they box up below you, go down slowly, take those angles and double spray. And that's what you want to do, right? Now in terms of defensive, let's say you lose height or you lose the first trade and you sort of are down on HP or you're lost on height. So cool, you're boxed up underneath, you have 3 to 4 metal boxes, which is usually what defensive looks like, and you're chilling. What is your objective? So there's 2 main objectives, right? They're obviously going to be playing like this, so you need to be either going for 2 things: spraybacks or 1v2 box fights. 1v2 box fights, what I mean by that is like not you 1v2ing, is like you get your teammate, call out, okay, like this guy's way too close, let's go box him, right? And usually that's good because they're going to be split up because they're trying to go for a pinch. Try not to do this if they're like right next to each other. If they're right next to each other, go the other side and crank up to height from there, right? If you regain height, suddenly you're on the offensive, which, like I said, it's like the better play style in my opinion. Like if you're in this position, I think you're winning, right? I think defensive is like a losing position. So because like if you're defensive and the enemies play properly, there's like literally nothing you can do. It's actually very tough. So the fix usually is get offensive from the beginning. Like make sure you're on height from the beginning, because if you're on height, you're dictating the fight, you have all the initiative. The enemies below are just like waiting to die. So definitely get height. It's very powerful for mid-game fights if you want to take mid-game fights. And staying on the offensive is like really important. That's basically it. Anyways, defensive, just to summarize, you want to go for the 2v1 on any isolated enemy. That's like one of your only win cons, right? If they sort of are together and maybe they're on the north side, for example, let me draw like a picture, right? Let's sort of explain this a little bit better. So let's say this is you in your defensive box, right? And then there's 2 enemies. I sort of draw this out. There's 2 enemies right here, and you guys are sitting right here. In this scenario, you should just go out this way and crank and then get height that way, right? In a very sort of quick manner. You do not want to telegraph your intentions and sort of like, oh, I'm gonna go for height, like look at me, like I'm just like slowly going out this way. Don't do that. Be very rapid and quick about it, decisive, right? Because then you can grab height over these guys, right? If they're maybe spraying like this and then maybe there's another guy here a little bit more distance, who should you go for? It's very obvious. I think this guy's like very vulnerable. He's standing right next to your wall. You guys should sort of 3 2 1 jump this way, box him, and even if you don't box him, like jump in, SMG at him. Just throw yourself in there, because I honestly believe with the manpower of 2 people, you absolutely will win this fight. You just need to sort of be confident and decisive about it. Again, don't let them understand your intentions, and the faster and quicker that you do it together, the more likely you are to get that kill. And you can just eliminate this guy. That's why I say don't box fight. That's why I say don't stand so close. I honestly don't even think diagonal box fighting works that well, because again, these guys can just double, like one guy can go this way, one guy can go this way, and then just like pinch you and like take you out, and your teammate's all the way over here trying to pinch when these guys are just like run towards your teammate. Like it's just not ideal. So try not to box fight like this. I don't think it's a very safe way to do it. Stand back here, and spray at a distance, maybe a little bit like above as well, like 1 or 2 layers above. If you spray, you will get free damage, and you're slowly going to be winning the fight if you just keep emptying SMG clips. It's like a really safe way to do it, right? So that's basically it, guys. You understand? Don't box fight. Spray from a distance, and defensive, in my opinion, is fine 2v1s, right? And if they're playing perfectly, if they're playing the way that I suggested, you kind of have to go for spraybacks. What I mean by that is like while they're spraying your wall, suddenly find like a nice right hand peek on like a different wall and like spray back the wall that they're trying to spray through, right? And like go for like a counter spray, and that's like really powerful because they won't expect it. And if you get a lot of damage, that can be really good for you guys to take height again, right? Once you get height, now you're on the offensive and the enemy's on defensive, and then you can use this procedure again. Does all that make sense? If you guys don't understand this, just leave it in the comments. I will help you guys out. Cool. Tip number 3. Let's hop into it. So tip number 3 is pretty basic. You have to understand the meta items for duos this season. So what are they, right? I think it's 2 things. Honestly, I don't think there's much else. I think these are the main things that you need to understand: repair tool and harpoon, right? If you can get these 2 things, I think you'll be very set for duo cash cups, because repair tool is very powerful. Like I'll give you an example. Last season, when repair tool didn't even exist, right? Arkram and Epic will always use Lambo with tires, all the way until 50-50 zone. Like, this is very, very powerful. Like, you have to understand why they're doing this. This is one of the best ways to save mats. Why? Because Lambo is very, very fast, and you don't have to build while doing it, at least that much. Maybe you can build a couple of wood walls to make sure you're not getting sprayed or your tires not getting sprayed. But now, even if your tires getting sprayed, you have this, right? Like, very, very powerful to have a car on every rotate. You just go so fast, right? It's so hard to track you. It's so hard to like try to kill you in that sort of manner, as long as you don't hit anything on the way. If you hit something and come to a dead stop in the middle of like no man's land, you're just dead, right? So that's what I sort of do. Just make sure you sort of use Lambo with tires or a car with tires. Lambo is the best one because you have a boost, and just keep using the repair tool to make sure it's at 800 HP, and you'll be chilling. It's honestly one of the best ways to sort of play this meta now. Make sure you have a car. I can't emphasize this enough. Cars are so important. Even if you don't have a repair tool, just find a car and sort of get it as far as possible. Once you feel like it's sort of dangerous to rotate with it now, you can ditch it or like use a different method. Cool. Harpoon, must hold item. It used to be the cow items, like the things that you throw, break the wall, they can't build on it. They used to be those items, but they took them out, right? So those are no longer the meta, obviously. Now that pushes harpoon up, because harpoon was like second or third in the list, and now harpoon's the best item, right? So these are like the things that you want to be holding as a duo. So if you notice, harpoon does 150 damage and full built brick is 300 HP exactly. So if you guys hold double harpoon, and if you go 3-2-1, time it on a full built brick wall, you can actually get in on a solo very unexpectedly, and they'll never expect it. And brick is pretty common, right? Like, people are building in wood or brick. Like, it's a very nice way to go for impacts as long as you guys are coordinated as a duo. If you guys are coordinated as a duo, I think it's a very powerful technique. Cool. That's basically it, guys. Honestly, meta with items, like find cars, find repair tool, find harpoon, and you should be chilling, right? As long as you have good heals and these items, you'll be very, very good. Go to the next tip, right? You need to get good at finding impacts, right? So there's several ways that we can do this. Let's sort of simplify this, right? Main ways that I feel like are powerful. Look for third parties. Right, so every time you hear a fight going on that's close by, every time you feel like, you know, there's a box fight going on in a tunnel next to you, go look towards it, because it's very, very hard to hold a wall when you're already fighting from the enemy's perspective, right? So because of that, if you guys look for third parties or double spray at third party, the chance of you getting a kill is very high, which is where the harpoon ties in, right? Because if you have a harpoon, you don't necessarily need to go in the box to pick up the mats. You can just harpoon the mats, and then you'll be chilling, right? That's a very good way to find impacts, and I think that's very, very powerful. Try to look for that. The next thing is drop downs. They're very powerful. Why? Because you don't even need to replace anything. If you guys just sort of set up a box, let me sort of explain this actually, right? So let's say this is the wall that you're about to go for, and like on the other side of the wall is the drop down. Like there's someone up here, like for example, right? And then you just need to place this wall or edit it in such a way where you have these top 6 tiles edited, right? So it's like a really, really open angle. Why do you want this? Because you want your duo to have an angle to shoot as well, right? So you do this, you full box the tile deeper, like right here. That makes sense? You full box this tile, right? You full box this tile and you sort of place the walls. Of course, you place all these walls, and then you place a cone above and the floor. I mean, actually, the cone and the floor will just be the enemies in this case, right? But you need to make sure you place a cone here. You need to make sure you place a cone in your own box so you don't get ramped off, right? So like this tile right here is usually where you guys will be standing, right? So like I said before, do a super wide edit on this wall right here. Super wide edit, just to make sure both you and your duo can shoot. Cone this box, make sure this is tight, right? Make sure this is completely walled off, because otherwise sometimes, I've seen this before a lot actually, the enemy drops down because you've been spraying and you're able to drop them down, and then they just exit out here because you didn't wall it off. But make sure it's airtight. Super important to be airtight. Then when they drop down, they like genuinely have no plan. They can't do anything. They could be Booga and they die. The difference is Booga would never be in a position to get drop downs. But anyways, just make sure it's airtight. It's one of the most important things I can sort of recommend. Place cones everywhere, piece control everything. They cannot place a single build, they are dead, right? That's good. They could be 5-5-5 and they can't place a build. That's the sort of idea. And you want them to drop down because it's super easy to sort of separate them and their duo. And even if you get two people, they'll be sort of unexpected, right? So let's say you drop down someone and then their teammate also drops down. As long as you guys hit your shots and actually hit them well, because honestly, you should have the advantage anyways, even without a peek, because it's so unexpected, right? So as long as you hit them hard, you'll do really well. And honestly, you can sort of even have a right-hand peek by standing here, right? So like one person standing on this wall to diagonal box fight it and have a right hand peek that way. That's another option, right? But you definitely want to make this wall right here a wide edit. Cool. That's basically it. That's what drop downs are like. So now the last way, in my personal opinion, there are other ways obviously, but there's like major ways to get impacts, is stealing and sneaking into enemy tarps. Now when you do this, a very powerful technique is to pre-edit while you're doing this, because not only are they surprised by the fact that you're in their tarp, they're also surprised by the pre-edit, which is like surprise squared. Like they'll never expect that sort of thing, and you'll be very, very well off if you sort of do that thing. I've seen it so many times with good duos trying to sort of pre-edit while stealing a tarp, because think about it, you don't need a wall to place while you're in someone else's tarp. You want to surprise them. Double spraying is cool and stuff, but like they'll process what's going on and then they'll just hold, and then your whole play is done. It's like over because they're aware about you guys now. So don't do that. I think what's better is sneak into enemies' tarps and set up pre-edit. So like again, what I would do is this edit right here, right? So like let's say this is the 9 tiles, you edit this. Right, so it's like a super wide edit, so you and your duo can actually do something, and you place the code in their box after you get the pre-edit. So that's the idea. So the next tip is actually super simple, right? You want to keep it simple in endgame because there's so many things going on already. If you and your duo can sort of agree on a framework that you guys will sort of adhere to, you will do super well. Just because simplicity in endgame helps you guys stay together and be on the same plan. These are the only things that you should be doing in an endgame if you have a decent amount of mats. This is it. Stay ahead. Cool. Pretty simple. I think this is an important topic to talk about, right? Because if you stay ahead, you have some sort of benefit over shooting people behind you because they have a bigger to-do list than you do, and you have a shorter to-do list because you've already done stay ahead part of it. So you have more time than the people behind you. You can spray at them and they'll be kind of screwed because they're sort of overwhelmed with the fact that they have to get ahead. Because Storm's also pushing them in. Sort of don't lose track of staying ahead, because once you lose track of staying ahead, so many things start going wrong. And that's just a simple rule of Fortnite. Stay ahead if you have the mats to do so. Don't try to overcomplicate it, right? Stay together. Another tip. A lot of people don't stay together. You should not be further than like 1 tile away from your duo. I promise if you don't do this, you're actually trolling. Like go watch any Booga duo trio VOD. You'll see how much he enforces his team to stay together. It's that important. I think it's super important to stay together and like max be 1 tile away, max. Right? That's how you get picked off if you sort of split up. So definitely don't mess this part up. You notice how everything I've said here is simple. It's simple but powerful. So just make sure you follow these. So another thing is you need to be blocking your back. I think a lot of people don't do this enough, right? A lot of people don't block their back, then they get surprised because if someone stole their tarp or someone came up behind them and just get double sprayed and you die. So block your back often. I would say every 2 to 3 tiles, just place like a wood wall or a metal wall, depending like on the situation. And just make sure you block your back often. It's very powerful. So let's talk about another thing. This is what I was talking about with the previous tip. If you have a harpoon, this is another method to like get an impact. If you're ahead, right, because you have less things to do and you sort of like chilling, you have like 10 seconds of like free time, just make sure you look back and spray if you need something. And this is where the meta items ties into this, because if you have a harpoon, your impact range has suddenly extended to 34 meters, right, instead of just right next to you. So you don't have to go to the loot to get it. So you can spray, you can use your SMG, you can use your AUG to spray back and get a bunch of kills. You can do this together. So let's say this is first moving, right here. Let's say you guys sort of go and then you tarp and you set up your boxes here and you're ahead, right? Because there's like 10 seconds left on the clock. You should look back with your duo and double spray the same target. And usually you want to shoot people that are exposed and not behind builds, because it's so much harder to react to when you double spray someone that's exposed. You get a lot more free damage, and you know the likelihood of actually getting the kill goes up a lot. So definitely spray at someone together at the same target. If they're somewhere medium distance within 34 meters, you'll actually get the mats as well. And that's what we're looking for. Like the kill points are nice. The mats extends your end game like by so much. So definitely look for the mats, and that's why you hold a harpoon in the first place. You understand? So if you guys have a harpoon, you can kill someone medium distance, harpoon their mats, and then continue as normal. You've taken 0 risk whatsoever. There's just no risk in that sort of play. So definitely understand that aspect. I think that's something that a lot of people don't do enough. Hold a harpoon. This sort of enables you to look back and spray and get impacts that way. Cool. That's basically it, guys. Honestly, I really believe that you should sort of follow these tips. If you guys want to sort of write this in the comments, like the sort of full list of tips, you absolutely can do that, so other people can sort of understand what's going on and sort of have the list to refer back to. You guys will do super good in this cash cup. Stay confident, guys. Really focus up on these tips, and they're super simple, but they're powerful. Thank you so much for watching this video, and I'll see you guys tomorrow.